we'll bear with her, but we'll at the end, if she's got time for some questions and some photos or whatever, we'll do what's best for everybody and best for her. But I just want to turn it over to her this time.
Yeah, thank you, Freddie. I really appreciate the chance to be here tonight, and it is just such a joy to travel all over this state and to get to see the great things that are happening in schools around South Carolina. I was talking to this gentleman over here who said, Tom, who said that he heard me on WORD today. I was able to be on with Charlie James this afternoon, and we were just talking about the fact that, in education, we certainly have a lot of challenges, and you can't sugarcoat the truth. And the fact is that a lot of those challenges that we have in our schools starts with the breakdown of the family. It really does. And so a lot of children come to schools with a lot of challenges that are then put on our teachers and on our administrators. And every day they are giving it their all. I am so thankful for the teachers of this state who are so committed to the students in their classroom, who aren't doing it because they're pulling down a big paycheck, but are doing it because they care about the future of their community. And so just today, I was able to be in Pickens County, like Freddie said. I was able to visit just an amazing career and technology center, because I am so passionate about the idea that we have to prepare our students for whatever comes next for them after they leave our high school. Some students are going to go on to a four-year university, and that's wonderful. That's their path to success. But let me tell you, that is not the only path to success. My own brother went into the military and has lived a very successful life, did not get a four-year degree. We have kids who are looking to go into dual enrollment and earn a two-year degree, some of them even while they're still in high school. And so to be able to see that opportunity for our students in such an incredible way in Pickens County was such a joy. And then I got to speak to their Rotary Club, and then I got to go visit an elementary school. And this is a very special elementary school, because at the end of the school day, every day, they have something called Play Club. And you know what Play Club is? It's just what it sounds like, play. It is getting kids back to the way that we all were raised, not a phone-based childhood where kids are glued to that device in their hands all day, but where they're actually out playing with each other, learning how to negotiate conflict, learning how to just talk and interact with other people. And what's so amazing about this is that it's not rocket science, y'all. That's the way we all grew up too. And we know that that's a healthy way for kids to grow up. And what they've seen happen in this school, just as a result of doing this play club before and after school, is that their academic achievement is going up, their discipline problems are going down, and it's all because kids are learning to be kids without that technological device in their hands all day, every day. And the best news of all for folks like you who are taxpayers sitting in this room is that it didn't cost the school an additional extra dime to do this. So that is really my message to you all tonight, is that while we have a lot of challenges in education, we have a lot of really great things that are going on here in South Carolina. And to me, really, public education in South Carolina is all about getting back to the basics. We've got to focus on the fundamentals. When our kids leave a South Carolina school, they need to be able to read, write, do math, and they need to understand why America is the greatest country in the history of the planet. We have such an amazing heritage here in South Carolina and as Americans. And I am so excited about a lot of the things that we are doing. I'll just tell you about very briefly what I've been doing with my time the last 2 years. I will first start by saying this is the honor of a lifetime to do this job. Like I said on the radio today, my boss in this job is every single one of you who's sitting in this room today, and voters just like you in every community across this state. And that is who I am in Columbia to represent as we lead our education system. So I'll just start by saying a heartfelt thank you for entrusting me with the opportunity to do this job. We are truly taking care of God's greatest creation, which is the hearts and minds of children. And it is not trite to say that that is the future. If we're going to have a strong South Carolina, we have to have a strong education system that is teaching those kids the fundamental skills that they have to reach their full God-given potential. And the number one skill that we know our students have to have if they're going to be successful in life is reading. You have got to be able to read. And it is no wonder that when you look at folks who are in our prison system, that anywhere from 60 to 80% of them are functionally illiterate. You have got to be able to read to be successful, especially in this economy that we live in now, which is changing at such a rapid pace because of technology, that we have to constantly, even as adults, be learning new skills all the time. And that requires the ability to read. And so we know that if students aren't reading on grade level at the end of third grade, they're going to continue to just fall further and further behind as they go through school. Because what they say is that students from kindergarten to third grade are really learning how to read, but after third grade on, you're reading to learn. And so if you don't have that foundational skill, just imagine being a student. Maybe you were a struggling reader in school, and you know the frustration that it is when you're being asked to do work that you simply don't have the ability to do. Think about how frustrating that would be, about how that might make you feel ashamed. Maybe you would be the class clown, or maybe you would become a discipline problem. But the fact is that so much can be solved when we ensure that kids have that reading foundation. And so what I've been doing in partnership with the General Assembly is ensuring that every single K-3 teacher in South Carolina has the tools in their toolbox to teach reading according to what brain science now tells us is the way that they need to learn. And do you know what it is? Phonics. It's what we have known growing up. It's how I was taught to read. And how our colleges of education ever got away from phonics is kind of a mystery to me. But what's old is new again. And so we are ensuring that every teacher in South Carolina who's in those early grades has that science of reading knowledge. And I will tell you, it has been so liberating for the teachers that I have talked to. Our teachers don't have a whole lot of extra time on their hands. We ask them to do an awful lot with an awful little. And so when we let them know that the state had funded this opportunity, which is called LETTERS training, it's a 2-year training, but that the state was also going to provide a $500 stipend for teachers each year that they did this training, right? Because we value their time. We said, we're going to do this as a coalition of the willing. You raise your hands as a district when you're ready to do this. If you're ready to go now, we'll go now. And so we had a strong cohort of districts that stepped up to the plate, and the teachers started to do this training. And at first, I think a lot of them were like, oh, this is one more thing Columbia's making us do. But as they got deeper and deeper into that training, I have heard from so many of them that said, why did nobody ever tell me this before? Why didn't I get this in my college of education? I feel like I have been not serving my students in the way that they need to be served. And some teachers have even said they felt ashamed about that. And I said, you can't feel ashamed about that. The fact is, when you know better, you do better. And now we know better. And so I'm really excited about the reading trajectory that we have here in South Carolina, because that is the most important foundational skill. We know we also have a long way to go in math, and not just here in South Carolina. That's a problem that we're seeing all across the country, especially after COVID. And so we have launched an initiative at the Department of Education that's called the Palmetto Math Project, and that is launching this year. We are going into our schools that are struggling most with math, providing them with, again, professional development for teachers, making sure they have a really great high quality curriculum, and then making sure that we as a state are providing them with coaching on how to use that curriculum effectively to help our students make up the ground that we know they can make up. And what I'm glad to tell you tonight is that just this last week, we had the results of what's called the Nation's Report Card. It's called the NAEP test, that were released. And this is a test that students all across the United States take. And so it's really the only apples to apples comparison that we have of academic achievement between states. And while we still have a long way to go as a state, we have not lost nearly as much ground as most other states after COVID. And I think that's because our governor fought to keep our schools open, to get our schools back open, and because, again, we are focusing on the fundamentals here in South Carolina.
Ms. Allen,
Yes, sir.
We were ranked, by NAEP, we were ranked 43rd, I think, recently. Has that improved?
Yes, sir. That is actually improved, and a lot of other states have actually seen their scores go down significantly.
We were 43rd out of 50 states.
In the actual proficiency, yes, yeah, that's right. But
According to NAEP.
according to NAEP,
But that was last year. Did we improve on the most recent rating?
that's this year's rating, but that's the proficiency measure. What I'm talking about is like when you look at trends over time, other states have lost significant ground and South Carolina has not, and in fact, in a number of cases, we've actually increased that performance. So, like I said, we're not where we need to be, but we're moving in the right direction, and that's what my granddad always said: is direction, not perfection. Right? We have to get on that right trajectory and then double down on those foundational skill strategies that we know matter. And the other thing that I'm very, very excited about is that we're coming up on the 250th anniversary of the Revolution. And what I love to tell students when I talk to them is that Revolutionary War for independence may have started up in Lexington and Concord, but it was won here in South Carolina on the battlefields that aren't very far from where we're sitting today. Cowpens, Kings Mountain. There's some amazing history that we have here in our state. And I want every single student in South Carolina to know that without South Carolina, there would not be an America. And we have so much great history. We're actually going to be this year rewriting our history standards to really platform that history. And I am so excited for the opportunity for South Carolina to lead the way in ensuring that our students, again, understand what an amazing place they have to call home as Americans. And I'm so thankful. I am so thankful for everything that President Trump is doing right now to support what we're trying to do here in South Carolina by aligning the federal guidance on things like DEI, CRT, keeping biological men out of women's restrooms and out of women's sports. That is going to go so far to ensure that here in South Carolina, we can stand for biological reality, we can stand for common sense, and we can keep our eyes on the ball, focused on what matters, which is making sure these kids have those foundational skills that they need. So again, I am just so honored to be here with you tonight. I would be happy to answer some questions, Freddie, and we'll go ahead and open the floor.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm Jerry McKee. I have a podcast, Prime Time, and had a lot of teachers contacted me to ask you this question here. I said the state of South Carolina has a huge shortage of teachers, but the largest area of need is math teachers. While all teachers are important, I think we can agree that finding and retaining high-quality math teachers is getting harder each year.
Yep.
Also, it says, is the state ready as well as end of the course exams that they have to take and really have to study the math teachers? It says, why has the state maybe not considered offering an annual bonus, especially for math teachers? Again, all teachers are important, but math teachers are scarce, rather than offering a one-time sign-on bonus to new teachers, but to kind of offer a yearly bonus for math teachers and keeping the math teachers that you have now.
Sure. So those bonuses are typically paid for at the district level. What the state does is provide the minimum salary schedule that districts have to pay. And then there are many districts that pay bonuses or stipends on top of that minimum salary schedule. And what I'm pleased to report is that over the last 6 years in South Carolina, we have increased starting teacher pay 47%. We were at $32,000 for first-year teachers back in 2018-19. This year we are at $47,000, and we are going to $50,000 this year, I believe. That is what the governor and I have, just one moment, sir, have requested from the General Assembly. Now, what has been asked about math teachers specifically, math is one area of high need. We also need middle school teachers. We need special education teachers. So there are a number of areas specifically where we need more teachers. And one way that I believe we need to get at that is what I call strategic compensation. And this is something that was a pilot that was included in my budget request last year that was funded that I am asking for again, which is us getting money at the state level to work with districts to see if we can pay some strategic stipends to teachers in high needs areas, whether that be a subject matter like math or whether that be a geographic area, because we know that sometimes our rural districts are struggling to maintain teachers in different subject areas too. And so I think that teaching is one of the few professions where it's controversial to say that a rock star teacher should be paid like a rock star. We've got to think about how we can differentiate compensation and actually provide a better, more attractive compensation package for our best and highest quality teachers. So thank you for that question. I saw him next, and then I'll get to you. Yes, sir.
Yeah, you said pay's gone up
47%.
47%.
Yes, sir.
And that's in the last
6 years.
6 years.
Yes, sir.
How have our students' performances improved in that same time period?
Well, it's hard to have an apples to apples comparison because right in the middle of that was COVID, and that was a pretty massive disruption. But what we have seen in student performance since then is that we have recovered past where we were, better than where we were in reading, and we are almost back to where we were in math post-COVID. So again, we haven't quite hit that benchmark where we were prior to COVID, but we're close to making it up again. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
So you went to phonics for reading, which I think is great.
Yes, ma'am.
So have you gone back to regular math?
So just this year, we have rewritten our math standards, and I'm proud to report to you that the last vestiges of Common Core have been taken out of our standards. So we have South Carolina specific standards again.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I've got a huge question because I have 2 grandchildren in school, and I've noticed that when I came up, we had spelling tests up all through elementary school, and that's really not happening now. So do you think that could beneficial add to the reading comprehension and reading advancement in our state?
Absolutely. So spelling is actually a huge part of the science of reading. And when I say phonics, it actually encompasses a lot of different things, but phonics is really kind of the foundation of it all. But yes, ma'am, strong spelling and strong vocabulary is a huge part of that. And another part of it is background knowledge. So I'm actually doing the letters training that I told you our teachers are doing. I'm doing that training myself because I said I'm not going to make our teachers do something that I'm not willing to spend my own personal time doing. And I want to be able to, when I go into their classroom, talk to them knowledgeably about what I'm seeing that they're doing in their classroom when they're teaching reading like this. And so one of the exercises that was so interesting to me as part of this letters training is that they gave you a paragraph to read that was about the British sport of cricket. I don't know a stinking thing about cricket. And so it was so interesting in reading that paragraph. I could read all the words, but I had no idea what it was actually saying. And so building a student's background knowledge and vocabulary is every bit as important as just doing that phonics. So you've hit on a great point, and that is absolutely something that our new Science of Reading aligned curriculum is focused on. So thank you for asking that. Yes, sir.
I want to share a personal example here and then get your reaction to it. I have a group of friends from our church. We work with some 5th grade at-risk boys. We're mentoring them in kind of, adult skills. Some of it is church knowledge. A lot of it is just values and
Yes.
and becoming young men. One of these guys was in 5th grade. Is in 5th grade this year. Couldn't read a lick. Can't read at all. So I was working with him, tutoring him, and got to see what the school is doing. And, try to fit into that. A big problem was his IEP had him at the beginning of the year reading at an early 1st grade level. Their plan was to work hard and get him to the late 1st grade level before he goes to the 6th grade. And I thought that's just ridiculously not aggressive. And in this little bit of tutoring I did with him, he just accelerated leaps and bounds. I mean, he's able to learn. He's not disabled in any way. COVID nailed him, as much as anything. But my observation is, and this is what I want to get your opinion on. I work with him person to person. Now, he has access to special ed half a day, every day. And that entire period is almost all computer driven. He has no contact with people at all. He gets to this level in this lesson, and then he goes to the next lesson. And he fights that until he gets to the next lesson. With almost no human intervention in special ed. What's your take on the use of automation for at-risk kids like this?
Well, there's a couple of things I want to say, and the first is that thank you for stepping up to give your personal time in the classroom. I truly believe that the most valuable resource that any of us have in this life is our time. And I consider myself to be a conservative Republican. And like I said on the radio today, we've got to put the serve back in conservative. And our schools, I mean, I think Superintendent Haney will tell you this, our schools have a lot of needs, and they need about 500 times more people like you that are willing to go have that face-to-face interaction with the student. Because I think a lot of times what happens is that technology becomes a multiplier when there's not enough human capital in the school to have that kind of intensive one-on-one interaction that you clearly have identified. You're right, our students need it. To your question about the use of technology, one of the things that I am so proud of having accomplished in these first 2 years is getting rid of the cell phone during the school day. I will just tell you that I have heard just horror stories from superintendents, from principals, from teachers about just what the discipline issues that these phones create, how addicted students are to their phones. I mean, the social media platforms make no secret of it. They make these programs to be addictive, to be brain addictive. They use brain science to keep people hooked on their platforms. And so if they're addicting and hooking us as adults, imagine what that's doing to kids, right? And so getting those personal devices up and away for the whole school day, I think, is an important first step. We do need to have a real conversation around how we're using technology in the classroom, because I think many times in education we see the latest and greatest fad as kind of a silver bullet that's going to fix it all. And the fact is it doesn't. You've identified it correctly. Human to human interaction, and what we were talking about before, getting back to the fundamentals, is really where the heart of education is at. And so there are certainly incredible uses for technology in the classroom. I was in Spartanburg 1 last Friday and was in a 6th grade classroom where they were, as part of their writing lesson, using an AI writing tutor. And so I got to walk around, and the tutor was evaluating the students' writing in real time. And so what that allowed the teacher to do was spend more time individually with each student. And I looked at what the AI was telling the kid about the young lady about her writing, and it was great suggestions. It said, okay, clearly you understood the story because you've written a great summary of it. Maybe consider in paragraph 2 giving some more details that explain this part of the story. And then why don't you look at how you could write a stronger conclusion to your story so that your reader knows. It's like, that is great feedback in real time that a teacher could not possibly get to 30 students and give it to them in a single class period. So there are wonderful uses for technology, but we can't ever let technology replace that important human-to-human interaction that you're talking about. So that was a long-winded answer, but thank you again for being in the schools. That means a lot. Yes, sir. Other questions? Yes, ma'am.
I had a question for me to ask to you tonight. What is your position or your thoughts on the cameras in each of the classrooms? I mean, as a board, as a school district, I kind of know where we stand, but where do you stand on that's been rumored or talked about? Yeah,
I'm not aware of any effort that's credible at the state level on that. I really do think that that's very much a district by district decision that has to be done in consultation with parents and the local board. While I understand that many folks want transparency in the classroom, I also understand that there are real privacy concerns that would come with that about students, not to mention just the cost of what that would be for our schools. And so that's something that I'm not aware of anything at the state level that would be moving towards that at this time. Yes, ma'am. Any other questions? Sheila, good to see you.
Yeah, hi.
Haven't seen you for a while.
I missed the first part of your talk, so I don't know if you covered this or not. But I wanted to thank you for the Palmetto Civics project
Yeah.
that you had put into place. And I'm real excited about that, about the fact that the kids are going to be learning more about our founding documents.
Yes.
And that the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence next year is going to be celebrated in some way. I had reached out to the York County delegation about the possibility of having some legislation to go along with your initiative of, like, you're pushing it at the school level, and I would love to see our state legislators do something, maybe a resolution or maybe a bill, just to say that we know that these things are important that kids learn, and they're not learning them. I do a Constitution essay for middle school.
Yep.
And it's, you know, sad that, first of all, there's not a lot of participation, and then the kids who are motivated to participate, they don't really know. There's big gaps in what they understand about the documents, and so anyway, I just wanted to thank you for doing that. Such a great idea, a great project.
Well, thank you for that. And one of the things that I'm very passionate about as we look to rewrite our history standards this year, because every 7 years, our standards in one subject or another come up for what they call the cyclical review. And so this year kicks off the history standards. And what a perfect opportunity to do it in conjunction with the 250th birthday of our country. And I believe that the right way to teach history is as a story. And I think our history standards for too long have been very disjointed, if students kind of jump from this subject to this subject to this subject, and this year they're doing this. And, you know, we need to tell it as a progression that builds on each other, right? So that students are constantly being reinforced in that story of why did our founding fathers make decisions that they made about the Constitution, because there was so much insight and thought about the realities of human nature and factions like James Madison wrote about in the Federalist Papers. There's so much content there that, like you said, too many, not just of our students, but adults don't know. And so I just think we have a golden opportunity here in South Carolina to really show the rest of the country what it means to have truly high quality civics education. I'm excited. I really am. And we're doing the best we can to get a lot of different resources deployed into classrooms. We have a free and optional partnership with Prager University, which of course created quite a controversy with some folks who are, you know, on the other side of the political spectrum. And I was like, well, yes, how controversial that a state superintendent who ran as a conservative Republican is platforming a traditional pro-American view of history. I'm not sure how that came as a surprise to anyone, but this is the world we live in today. We also have some really incredible resources that are based around the Medal of Honor. I don't know if y'all are aware of this, but the Medal of Honor Museum is actually here in South Carolina on board the Yorktown. So if you ever have a chance to go down to Charleston Harbor and see that beautiful, beautiful museum, it is so well worth your time. And in many ways, civics education actually goes hand in hand with character education. Those values that we want students to know and to embody in their own lives: courage, honesty, integrity, and so patriotism. And so there's a beautiful curriculum that's been written about that Medal of Honor that teaches those patriotic values through the lens of stories of Medal of Honor recipients. And our students need to have heroes. Heroes are not football players. Heroes are not pop stars. Heroes are the men and women who sacrificed their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honors to build this country. And that's what our students need to be taught in history.
And I don't want to interrupt you, man, but when you said that, I always like to recognize someone who's in the room tonight.
Yeah.
He's one of our school board members, Kevin Brewington.
Yes.
Kevin's right back here, and
hey, Kevin.
a true hero representing us in the service.
That is wonderful. What branch were you in?
I was in the Army.
Who are? What division?
I was in Alaska, 25th.
Okay.
Yeah, I got hurt in Afghanistan back
Okay.
in 2011.
Well, thank you for your service. My brother was in the 101st, and he did 2 tours in Iraq. So I really am grateful for your sacrifice. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Anybody else? I know we have a couple of our school board members here tonight. We have our superintendent and principal here tonight.
And Mike, raise your hand. Kelly, we got the River School.
Yeah.
Our superintendent.
Yeah, and I just want to say thank you so much for what y'all are willing to do to be on a school board. That's a lot of time commitment, and I know you get probably chewed on in the local community a good bit too. There's no hiding when you're a local school board member, so thank you for being willing to step up and be on the front lines. And then we have a principal in the audience too, I believe, and I just want to say a huge thank you to our principals. I have made it a point in my first 2 years and really going forward to visit Title I schools, which are high poverty schools that are beating the odds, because there are incredible schools all over this state that are absolutely knocking it out of the park for their students. And it is proof positive to me that poverty is a challenge, but it is not an excuse. These students are every bit as bright as any students in any community anywhere on this planet. If we as adults are aligning ourselves and our supports to give them what they need, those foundational skills. And whenever I go to these schools, the principals are always very humble, and I ask them, you know, what's your secret sauce? And they talk about their teachers, and they talk about this, that, and the other thing. But what they don't talk about is themselves. And a great principal is what makes a great school. A great principal keeps great teachers in that classroom because of how they serve and support those teachers. So I truly am so humbled whenever I'm in the presence of one of our principals, because I think they may have one of the hardest jobs there is to do in education. I mean, they're trying to keep the lights on and the toilets overflowing over here, and you know, we've got something on fire over here, and I mean, it's nonstop, right, in addition to the academic mission of the school. So thank you for what you do every day. We really appreciate you. Anybody else? All right, going once, going twice. I'm headed back to Columbia after this, if that's it. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, fantastic. Do you want to do a picture real quick? Do you want to do a picture with the group?
What y'all think?
If you don't want to get up, that's fine.
No.
Okay.
I'm trying to figure out where we can get
Okay.